Now that we've been able to control how many asterisks we can print on a line, we want to move to the problem of controlling how to print them in groups. Right? In this homework problem for the histogram, we had to form groups. Right? Let's see how we can simulate how we can tackle that problem. Once again, we're breaking problems down into their simplest steps. In the previous video, we had conquered the problem of printing how many asterisks per line. Right? We had this problem where we did a build and actually, sorry, I've added another file to this I need to remove. In the last problem, right, we conquered this task. We said, how do we control how many asterisks we print per line? We took care of that. We have this code, right? What we want to do is we want to move on to, then let me pop this up. Wrong problem. Might have been faster to just make another empty file. Oh, right. This is an empty file, right? I've named it print groups. Its purpose is to control printing groups of asterisks. Right? What I would do in this case is I would create data to represent a group of asterisks, right? So once again, our data, integer, I'm just going to call this array groups. And right now, I'm just going to make this an array of 1. And I'm going to store a count in this array. I'm going to store that count we had of 47. Right? Actually, no, let's do this. Let's make groups. We have, in our other example in the homework, we know that we have a total of 10 different groups. There's different ways we could solve this, but I'm going to say, let's just say we have 10 different groups. All right. For right now, I'm just going to store the numbers in here that represent each group. All right, groups 0 through 9, so my initializer list. And I'm going to take a look at then, how could I control printing out these group labels? Right? That's one of the tasks. So let's go ahead and print the group labels. We should have an idea now that because this is an array, we're going to use a loop to walk through the array to get this information. So group 0 through 9. So let's create another variable I we can use as an index to help us walk through the array. We're going to say for I equals 0, I less than 10. That's my total number of groups, right? Plus I. Let's just print out, right? Group. Well, I contains the value of the group. So %d for the int. Let's do that. And I need to save this. Before I do my build and run, it was still running off the old executable. And I need to add this to the active project. I need to remove the other one from the active project. All right, build and run now. All right, we get group 0 through 9, right? We solved that part of the problem. We have some code that recognizes the fact we're going to need to walk through some sort of array. We can use then an index in this case to print out the group numbers, right? That doesn't solve the problem then of we don't know what numbers will be stored for each of these groups, right? Let's just go ahead and maybe I'll just say there's 21 there, there's 32 here, there's 43 here, 54 here. Actually, that's going to be a lot of asterisks on the page. Let's go back to, we have 15 in this first group, right? So let's put 15. It looks like the next group has 8. Let's go with simulating our example output data, right? Rather than making up some numbers to fit in there. All right, this group looks like it has 17 and then 16. All right, group 4 looks like it has 18 and then maybe, oh, 1, 2, no. Actually, group 3 has 17. 15. I think I'm just 14. So it looks like 16, 14, 12. Let's go with 9 and then 12. We don't have to be exact to the other. All right. So what we're doing here is, right, the numbers stored in groups array represent the count. Right? And so we know what we need to do is we need to use this count information. And then for each group, so we're just going to have, for each individual group right now, we're just going to print out the count, right? And we're going to print out asterisk for the count. All right, so print the group label. So what we want to do is we want to say, for each group, print the number of asterisks that represent the count. So we can use I again, I equals 0. I less than, well, 10 is the size, how many groups? Right. And we have this code, right, that we already developed. We could copy, paste, and reuse, right, that said, let's control then the number of asterisks, or print the number of asterisks, right? That just says go ahead and print an asterisk for 0 through 10, right? If I ran this now, this isn't what I want, right? If we do a build and run at this point, because sometimes you incrementally build and run, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, let me just throw another count in there for right now. I had an extra comma. All right, so we can see this code wasn't exactly what we wanted. I kept in printing out the groups, right? If we did this, we said, oh, well, I'm just going to print asterisk, but that's for the number I going from 0 to 10, that's just my total number of groups, right? That's the size of my array, right? So maybe I'll just create define number groups 10, and let's substitute number groups and number groups here. Right. So we substituted that for 10. What we want to do, right, is for the group at index 0, I want to print out 15 asterisks, right? And it may take different things for you to see the pattern as you begin to program, right? We could say print the asterisk for group 0, right? Let's just even comment out this code here. We just want to print the asterisk for group 0. All right. So we could say for I equals 0, right? I less than, well, how do we know then? We want to print the asterisk for group 0. I should probably start at 0 and go to less than the number stored in here, right? If I hard code in 15, simply right now because I know there's 15 in there, right? I could now say print, right? And if I say asterisk, well, we know from our previous example, we're going to get 15 asterisks on one line. Sure enough, we got 15 asterisks on one line. All right, and from our previous code, we said, oh, if we want to limit the number of asterisks per line, right, we had this variable, right? So we could do a pound define, or we could make it a constant, pound define. We call this print per line, and the other one, asterisk per line. That was 10. So here, right, we said if we want to control, well, I tells us how many we've printed out, right? It's a count of going through here now. So I can say if I, so we divided I by the number of asterisks per line. So I mod asterisk per line because we're interested in the remainder. If the remainder of that equals 0, it's an even multiple of that, then we want to print a new line. We give it that new line character. Okay. We do that to maybe keep this all visible. All right. So we're going to print a print new line. Right, that's what we're trying to do there. Okay, so if we do a build and run now. All right, so we're back to controlling the number of asterisks per line. Right here, we did that for group 0. And that might mean we need to do something like this. Well, let's print group 0. Right, can't remember if we had an asterisk there. I guess we did. And if we build and run that, well, I forgot my semicolon. All right, so we get group 0. Let's see, the other started on a new line. Well, the other starts on a new line here because when I0, I mod asterisk per line, right? 0 divided by anything will give you a remainder of 0. So we might not want to start that at I equals 1, right? We might need this, or I equals 0. If we need to do this, we might want to start this at 1. We might want to make this less than or equal to 15. And we saw then if we do this, build and run. All right. And that gave us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only gives us 9. Remember? Because I becomes 10 at this point, using a for loop here, we have the complication where I becomes 10 before we print this. Oh, maybe we need to change the order, right? if we change the order, if we print the asterisk first, here, do this, all right. If we print before we do the new line, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There we got our 10, right? So simply by changing the order, here we printed, then we said check for that, and then print the new line, right? By doing the other order, we only got 9 per line. We had to change this at this point. I said, well, let's start counting at 1. Let's make it less than or equal to the count. Before it was 0, less than 15. Now it's 1, less than or equal to 15. Right, that achieved that. Now we also have the complication, right, that we wanted this to be nicely lined up. All right. We might be able to use the tab character here. So if I say, give me a tab after I do this, and now if I say, give me a new line and give me a tab here, not quite what I wanted, was it? All right. All right, so tabs usually go on the console on multiples of 8, but let's take a look at this, right? If every time, let's see, if I have group 0, so group, that word is 5 characters, space for 6, and then 1 space for 0, for the number 0, 7, colon 8, and then a space there, 9. What if I said, go ahead and give me 9 blank spaces? So %s is a string. So I could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's build and run. There's different ways we can do this. Okay, by doing that, now I have my next group lined up. All right, that's beginning to look a little more like what we want for the output. That controls group 0. Well, if we were to do this, copy paste, and do this for group 1. So for group 1, well, now if I'm hard coding this, I can see that group 1 only has a count of 8 in it. But if I build and run, oh, well, now my group 1 should start on a new line. Oh, maybe I need to have, I could put that new line character before that, or I could say, give me a new line there, right? New line before the start of each group. And that should pretty that up. No, because I printed an N. Right, let's go back. This prints an N, not a \n. All right, that will pretty that up. Before we do a build and run, let's copy this and let's go ahead and now take care of group 2. Group 2 has 17 in it. Right. Oh, I changed my count here. Sorry, I changed the wrong one. Group 1 has 8. Group 2 has 17. I still have my other running. We're going to stop the copy pasting and take a look at the pattern. All right, that's what I have for my group here. Right, we could continue on, right? We could continue on and say, well, now what do we have in group 3? But let's take a look. Since we've got 0 through 1, what have we been changing? We've been changing this condition here for I. Right? We've been saying that this stopping condition is based on what's stored in this array. Well, this array at index 0. And this array at index 1, group 1, index 1 has an 8. Group 0, index 0 has an 8. Group 2, which is index 2 in our array, has a 17. That's what's changing in this pattern. What if we make a variable here called group number? What if I now have an array then that says for group number equals 0? Right. Looks like I killed that comment. For group number equals 0. All right. Group number less than, well, that's our number of groups. So number of groups plus group number. All right. So now what if I just say, let's print out group. Instead of hard coding in the number, I'm going to do that. And then print out group number. All right, so I got all these group numbers. They're all on the same line. I have all this other code from down below, so that looks kind of messy. But I'm able to do this and go through the array and print out the group numbers. That's what we just did up here, isn't it? Right? We had already done that, printing the group labels. Print group labels. That's what we're doing here. Right, we want to incorporate that now. That's what we were doing here. We were printing this group label. After we printed the group label, what was our next action? Right? Print the asterisks for each group. Right. Well, we did that by using a for loop that looks like this. Right. Here we hard-coded in the number 15 because that's what was stored in this array at this index 0. I already have something that lets me know what group number I'm on, right? Because this index is the same as my group number. So if I say this is less than or equal to the data's in my array called groups, right? Group number tells me which group. I'm going to remove this other. And oh, I removed. Oh, missing it. Curly bracket here for my if statement. All right, not exactly what I want, right? We write a little code, we test it. What did we forget, right? Well, when we finish a group, we need a new line character. Oh, before we start a new group, we need a new line character, right? Where do we start a new group? Here. Can I just put the new line character right here? Yeah, I can. I get a blank line above, but that actually makes the output look a little bit better. That's the pattern we wanted, right? If we pop this up now, right, what was our goal? Our goal was to create something that looked like this, right? So we wrote some code that's able to control that pattern independently of what might be in that array. Right? We abstracted away the frequency array count. We just simply worked on the problem of how do we print this out. We wrote some other code to test that we no longer need. right? We no longer need that. I always like to do a build and run to make sure that when I've gotten rid of something, it still works. So I could always do Control-Z to undo if it didn't, right, to replace what I got rid of. That works. Right? We're able to control that, right? Now, when we go to the homework problem, we know, well, this array we're going to find out is called frequency count array. We won't know what numbers are stored in here, right? But we can use the same idea to access this information, right? So that's then this video then on how to control the number of groups and printing out the number of asterisks within a group, right? Our groups in this case were only one. Next, we'll take a look at how we control them when we have multiple groups per line.